I think anyone that wants to become a filmmaker, or at least work in the filmmaking industry, owes it to themselves to watch Stanley Kubrick's films, or at least some of them. I think Stanley Kubrick, personally, was one of the best filmmakers ever. Probably the best, but if not, then he was second only to Kurosawa, who was my personal favourite filmmaker. But Stanley Kubrick's films were incredible at the time, and still are. His masterpieces like A Clockwork Orange are still, if not more so, irrelevant to today's society than they were when they came out. But I wanted to talk about his last film, which he only completed 4 days before his death, Eyes Wide Shut. Now, Eyes Wide Shut, it had been over 10 years since Kubrick's last film, Full Metal Jacket, and the production of Eyes Wide Shut was also very troubled as it took over 2 years to shoot and another year just to edit right. And that's unheard of. Only in trilogy films such as the Matrix trilogy have films gone into production over a year. And with Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, those are 2 big summer blockbuster films, and they had incredible set pieces. But Eyes Wide Shut, which I didn't know to me at the time, starred the then married couple Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. I knew Tom Cruise was in the film, but I had no idea that his wife at the time would also be playing his wife. The story itself is about a doctor, played by Tom Cruise, who has a successful marriage and a kid and a big house and is very wealthy, who discovers that his relationship, his marriage to his wife, played by Nicole Kidman, is a lot more fragile than he ever thought it would be. They get high in one scene after smoking marijuana, where they find out that their fragile relationship is crushed by just one conversation, when Nicole Kidman pretty much tells Tom Cruise that she would have cheated on him if she had the guts with a sailor which she saw at a hotel years beforehand. This prompts Tom Cruise to get out of his house and explore New York City, which was shot in London as well. But as Tom Cruise is exploring New York City, he encounters an old friend who's a piano player at a jazz club. And this friend tells him he's now working for a secret party of cultists, and he gets paid very well. And he tells Tom about it, and Tom's intrigued, and he goes to the party. He has to wear a certain garb, so he goes to a shop to buy a tuxedo and a mask owned by a Russian, played by the Doctor in Mission Impossible 2 and the Bruno the Bear in Snatch, who's a very good actor, I find, and I'd love to work with him. But basically, Tom arrives at this mansion, gives the password, and enters. And this is probably the best scene in the film, because when he enters, all he sees is people wearing Venetian masks like his own, committing a massive orgy, essentially. And the music in that film, as Kubrick was a genius for picking music, but particularly the string work in that one sequence, to me, was incredible and very, very powerful. And the cinematography in that scene with the lighting and the Venetian masks and costumes just made it look amazingly vivid. But Tom Cruise gets found out that he doesn't really belong at this place, and so he nearly gets killed until one of the many, many, many women there sacrifices her life for him to escape unharmed. So the rest of the film after that sequence is really about his thoughts on the whole journey and experience, and we really see his character shatter and crumble. He finds out he finds the body of the girl who sacrificed her life for him. He knows his old-time friend, who was played by Sidney Pollack, was at the party and is engaged in those kind of sexual activities. And he also finds out Nicole Kidman has found out about his sexual odyssey, in a sense. But the last line in the film is very, very funny to me, and it kind of does tear away all the point of the entire movie beforehand, but it also reminds us as an audience member that we are just animals at the end of the film. And I won't spoil what the last line is, but it's certainly worth the wait if you didn't like the film from the start. It is incredibly slow pace, and that's one of its main criticisms, but I think the pace helps add to the dreamlike quality of this film. And that's what I want to talk about. Kubrick's choice of camera work and music makes this film feel like a dream. It's very relaxing to watch, probably because the pace is so slow. But at the same time, we're reminded that it is the real world, or at least the real world set in the film. So, although it looks and feels like a dream, then we suddenly see Tom Cruise's repercussions of his acts, which inform us that this is not a dream, it is real. And I think films like Inception have probably taken something from Eyes Wide Shut in their inspiration, especially Christopher Nolan in his writing phase at least of that movie. But Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman play a very convincing couple because of course they were married at the time. But I think it's quite kind of ironic that once the film had finally finished, so had Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's marriage, really. But the sex scenes in the film, and there are many, though sex isn't the most important thing in the movie, are quite realistic, as Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman have sex nearly all the time. What strikes me as very fascinating is this whole mansion sequence, because there probably are places in the world as we know it where these kind of parties happen all the time. And I wouldn't say I want to be part of one, but it must be an incredible experience just to witness it from a neutral perspective. Not that I'm looking, but Eyes Wide Shut to me is a very, very good film. And although it's not Kubrick's best movie, but you know, he did A Clockwork Orange, Dr. Strangelove in 2001. Those films are kind of hard to top. I think it is a very good coda to the end of an incredible body of work for Kubrick. I also really, really enjoyed the score. I always like film music, but the score to Eyes Wide Shut was very, very vivid to me. There's a lot of classical music in it, which has really become popular because of the film, but there's also incredible string work by the composer Jocelyn Pook, I think her name is, and her cellist work was brilliant, I thought, as well as her viola and violin. No, it's cellist, isn't it? Stupid me. But Eyes Wide Shut is a very, very vivid film to watch, and if you don't like slow-paced films, I can't really recommend it, but I can recommend it if you are a fan of films with dreamlike quality, such as Solaris or 1 Hour Photo. Fans if you like vivid lighting, bizarre camera work, interesting organics on the screen, especially with the Venetian masks, they look incredibly vivid on the screen. I can recommend it if you're a Tom Cruise fan, though it's probably one of Tom Cruise's least irritating performances until the third act of the film, when he starts to pretend to be really shattered and broken. If you're a Tom Cruise hater, then I don't think you'll like the rest of the film after the mansion scene. But I think I can recommend it to any Kubrick fan who has yet to see it, but also to a fan of people who like films from the 90s, like I do. Although it came out in 1999 on the eve of millennium, I'm very fascinated by films and TV dramas and documentaries that came out in that era. But no, it's a very, very good film. It's very interesting going on IMDb looking at the production of how many people were going to star in it before Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. I mean, Steve Martin at a point would have played Tom Cruise's character, which is kind of hard to imagine, but I suppose it would have worked. Sidney Pollack, if you're a fan of him, watch it. He's very, very good. It's a shame that he's passed away recently, but he's a very good performer in this film, as well as a very good filmmaker in his own right. So, I can recommend Eyes Wide Shut. Don't expect A Clockwork Orange or Dr. Strangelove, but expect a very, very good sexual thriller. And I don't mean a thriller like Basic Instinct, which is, to me, pretty appalling. But this film is really a sexual odyssey. It's a thriller. It's got incredible camera work, amazing music, and I think you will remember it for a very long time after seeing it. Anyway, my next video will probably be Full Metal Jacket, though if I can't get a hand of that, then it'll probably be A Clockwork Orange, which will be fun. Thanks.